I know the difficulties we face in elections, in electoral politics, not just electoral politics, but the very mechanics of voting. And the thing I think we have a problem with in this country, and I don't know if it's here or from Washington, D.C., or in Madison or Sacramento or wherever, is that they want to say, whoever we want to say they are, you know, Mike was talking about the robber barons. I wrote a book in 2009 delineating, did I say that right?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. The class structure in this country. And I didn't break it down into income or wealth. I broke it down into the robber class versus the robbed class. And most of us here, I think, are in the robbed class. If you're in the robber class, go to cindysheehansoapbox.com and give me a donation. But if you're like me, the robber class is so much more than the 1%. The robber class are the institutions that oppress us. From the wealthy 1% to their government. You know, the governments aren't by the people and for the people unless those are the rich people and the corporations, right? And not just the governments, the media, like Mike said, it's just not Fox News. You know, I once in a while tune into what I like to call MSNBCIA or CIANN. You know, I like to tune into those to see what the propaganda is coming out of their mouths. And the military and the police, I'm going to say police, I'm going to say something else. The police are part of the robber class. 1% of income owners couldn't lord it over us if they didn't have this support structure. If the military, police, and government and media weren't on their sides, right? I don't think they could rob us if that was. So we're still facing, like Mike said, it's come full circle. And we're facing those same challenges we faced over 100 years ago, and so on. So another thing that we make a mistake is that we are told the robber class, tell us that elections equal democracy. And that is not the case. Elections are, you don't even have to have elections to have a democracy. You can have democracy by consensus, right? Do we have a democracy even? No. You know, no, we don't. I mean, even in the dictionary definition, we don't have it. But we were never set up as a democracy. We were set up as a representative republic. And the people that we go and think we're voting for to represent us do not. Like I said, they represent the robber class. They are the robber class many times. I ran against Nancy Pelosi in 2008 in San Francisco. Yes. And, I mean, she's only gotten worse since I ran against her, if that's possible. And she is one of the wealthiest women in Congress. I, on the other hand, am one of the poorest people in California. And I ran against her, and you know, and now I'm going to run for governor in 14 of California. And I can't, you know, last year I ran for vice president. And it's not like I even like to run for office. I hate it. But, you know, I think we have to challenge the dominant two-party, which is really just one-party system. Yeah. And I never run against a Republican. The Republicans also run. Like when I ran against Nancy Pelosi, there was a Republican in running too. I told her, I said, I'm not even running against you, I'm running against Pelosi. She says, I'm running against you. I'm like, well, fine, you know, fine with that. I beat her, by the way. I beat her in Republican. I didn't, you know, I didn't beat Queen Robber class, but I beat the Republican. And you cannot earn a living, like Mike said, if you're running for office. For one thing, it's a full-time job, but your campaign can't pay you. Your campaign can pay the manager, your campaign can pay, you know, the volunteer organizer, can pay the webmaster, can pay whatever, you know, all the positions, but they can't pay the candidate. So how the hell are we supposed to pay our rent, feed ourselves, you know, whatever, if you have to be independently wealthy, or you have to be someone crazy enough to not care about her credit, like me, to do this, right? So there's a lot of obstacles that the robber class put in front of us. Now in California, I don't know if you have it here in Wisconsin, but I don't think so. We have a top 2 primary system where, do you have it here?
No.
No, not yet. It's coming to a state near you. Where, you know, it's like an open primary, and the top 2 vote getters move on to the general. Now, this was sold to us as it was going to be something that was going to, like, bring a renaissance of democracy to California. I don't even know how the hell they sold it to us that way, because that doesn't make sense. When you limit the choices, you limit participation. And so guess what? That was in 2012 was the first time we had elections based on this. In many districts, there were 2 Republicans or 2 Democrats running against each other. Not ever one third party or one independent got to go to the top 2. So this is another thing that limits our choices. And many people look at, and I'm not talking about us here. Let's talk about the robber class. They want to tell us that there's no democracy in Iran because the Ayatollahs pick the candidates. So they get to vote on whoever the Ayatollahs tell them they can vote for. I always say we have the Ayatollahs of the American election system that pick our candidates to vote for. Wall Street, Big Pharma, the military-industrial complex, banks, whoever they are. I know the right wants to call them the New World Order. I always say I'd like to have a Bilderburger, a vegan Bilderburger, with a New World side order of sweet potato fries. But you know, I don't think they do have meetings. They call them like the G20, GA, NATO, Bohemian Grove, World Bank. You know, they do have meetings, but I think there's some kind of general agreement about which candidates are going to further their agenda, right? And so I think the Ayatollahs of American politics choose for us, especially who's going to get to run for president in the Democrat and Republican sphere, Congress, the Senate. People are always like, we need to recall Senator X. I'm like, we need to abolish the Senate. The Senate we need to abolish all 100 of them, like they did in Venezuela, the elitist branch. They're all elite, but that's the most elite branch. I guess nobody here really agrees with me about abolishing the Senate. So I have how many? You just hold up one finger and said I had 2 minutes. This is really confusing me. Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, that's 2.
I didn't have my glasses on.
Well, I don't really have much more to say except I will always try to confront the party of Wall Street, which is the Democrats and the Republicans. I will always try to confront the party of war. You know, the war party has a left wing and a right wing, and they're all working towards this perpetual war. And, you know, we can go and vote, and someone said, you know, vote for the Democrat, vote for the Republican. If you vote for the Democrat, you're at least telling the Republican that you don't like their agenda. But if you don't vote for either one, you can tell both of them that you don't like that agenda. And voting, and I think going to vote, and sometimes it can be very, very compromised, unless you're voting in Venezuela, where they have almost 100% election integrity there. But if you go to vote in the United States, like was said, there's a real chance that your vote is not going to go to where you wanted it to go. But at least you can cast a vote against the system. We might not win, but there's a danger of that, of us, really getting into office. But at least we can say that there is, oh my God, what would I do if I was in Congress right now? They'd give me a corner office in some basement, shove me to the side, and I wouldn't get up and say my esteemed colleague from anywhere. I'd just be that asshole from Arizona or wherever. So anyway, but we have to, and voting is just not democracy. Getting out in the streets, working together in movements, making more encourage diversity. If there's diversity, if there's youth, if there's people of color, if the demographics of your movement look more like the demographics of the country, that's when we're going to have a relevant and very successful movement. Thank you.